Welcome to another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast on a rainy, gloomy August Monday. It's Matt Morrison. Happy to have you along again. Everybody watching on the Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar Facebook page. We're also live on the YXE Sports Podcast Facebook page and also on No YXE. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, the audio version. Happy to have you along as well for, like I said, another episode of the YXE Sports Podcast. This is also a big day because I don't have to do this by myself this week, which I'm super excited for. I guess we did have one of the Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar owners last week, but for the most part, I don't have to do this by myself today, so that's awesome. Make sure you leave your questions, your comments, your concerns, your opinions in the comments section. We'll do our best to get to them, but we do have a very special guest with me today, sitting to my left, and that is Lee Kormish, who is a member of the Saskatchewan Soccer Supporters Group. He's also a brand ambassador for Living Sky Sports. We'll get to what Living Sky Sports is and what they're doing in the province and in the city. If you haven't already kind of heard the soccer news from a few weeks ago or about a month ago, Lee, but this Saskatchewan Soccer Supporters Group, I want to talk about that first, also known as the Wheat Pool. What exactly is the Saskatchewan Soccer Supporters Group?
Yeah, so every club across the world has a group of hardcore fans, is what you want to call them. They're the ones that sit in the end zone, they wave the flags, and they sing the songs for the entire 90 minutes of the game. They have marches up to the stadium on game day, and when it's not game day, they're always doing something, building something, setting up a watch party for a big game. So it's really the driving force, it's the foundation of the fan base of any club.
Right. Simple enough. So the Saskatchewan Soccer Supporters Group, there was talk, what was that, a couple months ago now, I believe, of Living Sky Sports, Alan Simpson, potentially bringing a Canadian Premier League team to Saskatoon. And we can maybe talk a little bit now about, kind of that role, your role with Living Sky Sports. Maybe first of all, kind of give us a little bit of an update where this potential team to Saskatoon is and kind of what your role with Living Sky Sports as a brand ambassador is.
Right, so where is this project right now? There is one hurdle. It's one large hurdle, and that is to build a soccer-specific stadium. Now, we want professional soccer to come to Saskatoon, but when we tell the Canadian Premier League that we're here, we're ready, the question is, where are you going to play?
Right.
We don't have a stadium that meets all the Canadian Premier League requirements in our city. So that is the big hurdle. If we get over that hurdle, a team will be coming to Saskatoon.
And talk about a little bit about kind of these requirements and these specifics that the Canadian Premier League need and really just kind of the requirements and what a soccer-specific stadium should and would look like.
Okay, yeah, very important question, and I need to let you know that the first thing that comes up is, why not Mosaic Stadium in Regina? Right. That is the number one ask.
Yep.
So you've got a 33,000 seat stadium, and for these games, you're going to have about 5,000 to 6,000 fans. If you put this team, this club in Mosaic Stadium, it will not create the atmosphere required to build a team successfully. It'll feel too cavernous, tickets will not be a demand, and it will just slowly die. If you went to Mosaic, it would be beautiful in the beginning, but it would be a death at the end of it.
Right.
And Alan Simpson of Living Sky Sports loves Saskatoon's passionate soccer fans and the base that is here. So he wants it in Saskatoon. Now, Canadian Premier League requires about a 5,000 seat stadium and no football lines. So those are the two big things.
Right.
And we don't have anything that fits that. We have a passionate football core here that loves the football fields and the football lines. And so right now there's just nothing that meets Canadian Premier League's requirements.
And you kind of mentioned if we get over that stadium hurdle, once we can kind of get the shovels in the ground, then it should be all systems go. So what would some of those stadium hurdles, kind of be? What's kind of stopping whoever's going to be doing the building from doing the actual building? Does it come down to funding? Kind of what does that sort of look like?
It is the funding. This is the most exciting part that I get to talk about. Can you imagine a 5,500 state-of-the-art stadium,
Right.
outdoor stadium in Saskatoon. It will be a soccer-specific stadium, and Alan from Living Sky Sports has told me he will build the nicest 5,500-seat stadium in North America.
Right.
So that just opens the doors for Saskatoon globally to bring events, not only national events, but globally as well. And it would be at Prairie Land Park. You've already got the grandstand there, so you can kind of see what about 1,000 seats would look like with press boxes and stuff like that. But there will be some little special touches, some touches that I don't know about yet that I don't really want to put the secret on. But the renderings will be coming through within the next month here.
Okay. So you look at the Canadian Premier League, you've got teams in Ottawa, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax, Hamilton, Langford, which is on the island out in BC, Winnipeg and Toronto. So the number one, when I kind of look at the rest of the teams of the Canadian Premier League, the one thing that sticks out to me is all of those cities have a bigger capacity than Saskatoon. So why do Living Sky Sports, why do you think that even though with a smaller population compared to the rest of the Canadian Premier League, a team could still work in Saskatoon?
I actually think the smaller centers are a recipe for a bigger success than the larger centers. I feel that every city in Canada that has about 300,000 plus should have a team in this league eventually. That's how I feel. Halifax has one of the most beautiful models, and we always compare Halifax to Saskatoon when it comes to these types of things.
Yeah.
So Halifax has the entire city excited about the game day. They have marches, they have everything you could ask for in a soccer club that they do over in Europe, that they do here on a smaller scale in Halifax. I believe that we can harness that here in Saskatoon. I think Saskatoon is the perfect market for it.
Well, and just look at the support of, Rider Nation in Saskatchewan, right? Yes, Mosaic is in Regina, and that's where the Riders play, but people will flock from all parts of the province to go to Regina, right? And there's really no reason why it can't be any different with a soccer team in Saskatoon, right? You can have those people come down from Prince Albert, you can have those people come up from Regina, Estevan, should there be, the demand for it. So, but yeah, that's kind of the one thing about the Canadian Premier League that sticks out to me, and that might be what other people are saying. I mean, I've lived in this city my whole life, so I know how well the Rush do. I know how well Husky Athletics do. I know how well these other, teams do. But that is kind of the one glaring thing that pops out to me, is that they're all kind of in these cities with 1 billion plus people. Talking about the Canadian Premier League itself, because this is the league that the potential Saskatoon team would play in, probably not a lot of people know about the Canadian Premier League, so maybe just give us a little bit of a rundown on what that is and maybe how it compares to the MLS, which most people do know about.
It's very true. There's a lot of people that don't know what the Canadian Premier League is, and it's only been around a couple years.
Right.
They did a smaller season in a smaller time space in Prince Edward Island last year just to get a season in.
Right.
So this is actually, we're into season 3, and it is what they've deemed right from the beginning is it is a Canadian league made by Canadians for Canadians. So there's a lot of specifics. Teams have to have under 21 players from Canada playing a certain amount of minutes each season. A certain amount of players on each roster. As far as Major League Soccer goes, Major League Soccer is the Premier League of the United States. We want to get there where we're on a level playing field one day, but we are a step under that.
Right.
But when it comes to the Canadian Premier League, people are unsure of the actual talent that's going on the field. And people have compared it to a university level, and that is no further from the truth. It is a professional league. We are getting players from all over the world to come play for it. And here's an example for you. Our best player at the University of Saskatchewan, who is a Canada West All-Star, our team MVP last year, tried out for Winnipeg and couldn't make the team. And now he is an absolute stud on the field.
Yeah.
So we've got one player in Brett Levi, who's playing with Valor in Winnipeg. So it's cool that we've already got Saskatchewan players playing. But this is a professional league, and it is much higher than the university level that we would be playing at.
Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar is absolutely loving the interview. So much information. There was also, I was watching your interview that you did with our producer Ian Roach earlier today just to get some information about this. But you also had some interesting stats on soccer and soccer registration in Saskatoon and the province.
Yeah, it's the highest participated sport in the country. It has been that way for a while. There's almost 40,000 people that are members of the Saskatchewan Soccer Association. So you're not only, you're dealing with the highest public event that people actually play the game of soccer.
Right. And that's something that a lot of people don't think, right? You think Saskatchewan, you think football in the summer and maybe some baseball and then some hockey, but I play ball hockey up at the Hank Rye Soccer Center, and there's always soccer. It seems like there's always soccer games going on indoor there. There's the new soccer center, well, not new, but a few-year-old soccer center over at the Saskatoon Sports Complex over in University Heights. There's also the Saskatoon World Cup that happens every year, right? That's an event that not a lot of people know about either. Maybe just kind of take us through what the Saskatoon World Cup is all about.
The biggest challenge is being able to harness all the passion in our city, to bring all the individuals into a single gathering to celebrate the sport of soccer.
Yeah.
And the only two events that have been able to capture that, I believe, is the Regina World Cup and the Saskatoon World Cup. And there is over 30 different nations represented, not only individuals, but full teams of Ghanaians, full teams of Zambians, full teams from Korea, full teams from China, from Romania. It's absolutely a fantastic event. And if you haven't been, you should come for a Friday night. Yep. The casual, average sports fan can experience what soccer is about to the world at the Saskatoon World Cup. Is the one event that can do that. We want to try to do that with the professional team.
Right. Got a comment from Ryan, who is watching on Facebook, and that comment is, "Hi Lee, we had a great time hosting the soccer booth at the X. Thanks for having us." So you got a fan there, and Ryan. What kind of, we kind of talked about the stadium. Are there really any other hurdles that need to happen for this potential team to come to Saskatoon? Is it as simple as, building the pitch or building the facility and then they will come type of thing? Where do we kind of stand, in terms of a team actually being able to kick a ball here in Saskatoon?
Okay, so Living Sky Sports has franchise rights of any Canadian Premier League team in the province of Saskatchewan.
Right.
So they've got that right. And I've been told that the number one hurdle is the stadium. If the stadium gets approved, that team is coming. That is the biggest hurdle. And then after that comes a lot more challenges as well, such as selling tickets, such as, we've got the weather in Saskatchewan, which can be a tough thing, right? So, but those are more of the fun things,
right?
Creating a logo, creating a team name, getting the colors.
Yep.
So there's a lot of fun things that come after that first hurdle.
So those are things that happen with any new franchise in any league, right? But so it sounds like as soon as the stadium, or as soon as they get the go ahead to build the facility, then, like you said, it's kind of organized chaos after that, right?
Yeah, and you know what? I thought I'd talk about some numbers.
Sure.
Can I do that?
Of course.
So this stadium is going to cost between $20 to $25 million.
Yep.
All right. Prairie Land Park and Living Sky Sports have promised a $4 million portion to be paid for that.
Right.
What we are looking for is a $7 million contribution from the city of Saskatoon. Now, I just want to let you know, when you hear $7 million towards any sports or soccer, it sounds like a challenge. It sounds really difficult, and it is. But let me ask you, the snowfall last winter that hit us, it cost nearly $17 million for snow removal from one storm. To spend $7 million is a massive investment to all the what ifs, all the great things that can come with an outdoor soccer specific stadium. And it's not going to just limit it to soccer events, but the sky's the limit with this one.
Right. Is there a way for potential investors, but we already know kind of, what to do if you're a potential investor, But is there a way that people can kind of get involved if soccer is their passion and they want to see this dream of a team in Saskatoon come true? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, for the casual sports fan or the casual soccer fan, what we're asking of you is to write into your city councilor, talk to your neighbors, and get people to let our city council know how much passion and love there is for this game. They need to know that. It's so hidden, Matt, I'm telling you. The fans come out in droves for the Saskatoon World Cup. I see people you never see again. But if we can harness that, and I tell you, the minorities in our city, it's massive.
Yep.
Our city is so diverse, and there is so much hidden passion for this game. If we can capture that, let the city know how much there is in our not only Saskatoon but surrounding areas. I'm telling you, there is a great chance for a really exciting project down the road.
Well, and with all sports in the city, or the majority of the sports, and not just sports, you can kind of any kind of new thing or new event or new whatever that comes to the city, you really don't know that there's that much passion about it until it actually happens, and then it just blows up, right? So we're hoping it's the same thing with the Canadian Premier League. Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar has a question on Facebook, and will there be an expansion draft, kind of like the NHL style, or another team moving here? Now we know that another team probably won't be moving here, but when an expansion franchise does come to the Premier League, how does that work with kind of rosters and that sort of thing?
Well, you know what? That's actually a pretty good question.
Okay.
Is there actually an expansion draft throughout the teams? Ottawa came into the league, and yes, I can't say for certain exactly how they drafted all their players, so I shouldn't comment too much about that. But there is a lot of local recruiting as well. CIS is a big feeder into this league, and then also there's international connections as well.
Perfect.
So I shouldn't talk too much about that.
Yeah, right.
We're focused on the stadium.
Yep, for sure. That's the number one thing, right? Before anything else can happen is the stadium. Of course, we are live here at Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar, as we are every single Monday for the YXE Sports Podcast. And I know we're talking about soccer, but it is Saskatchewan Rough Rider season as well. So the Riders are started the season 3-0. Make sure you come on down to Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. $5 bevies for every single Rider game. They're on a bye week this upcoming week, but make sure that you get in here for any Rider broadcast. $5 bevies, and also lots of prizes, lots of giveaways, and even an opportunity to win a Rider mini fridge. And maybe if this Premier League team comes to Saskatoon, Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar, and the Premier League team can maybe have a partnership.
I like the sounds of that.
There you go. So that's kind of all things that's happening in terms of locally. Like I said, I was watching the interview that you did with Ian Roach, our producer, about, when was that, last month. You've been to the last 4 World Cups. Is that correct?
It is.
Which one was your favorite?
You know what? Every World Cup has something special to remember it by.
Right.
Germany, absolutely clinical with organization. Beautiful stadiums.
Yep.
It was to the nines, exactly organized as you would want.
Yeah.
No hiccups. Africa was my favorite because of the people. It was special. The World Cup has never been to Africa, and I'm telling you, the people there, to be on the southern tip of the African continent,
right,
that was special.
Yeah.
Brazil, to be where the best soccer has come from. Again, every World Cup has different things.
Yeah.
And then to be in Russia. Russia, it reminds me of our country, where it's flights to the next city.
Yeah.
10-hour bus rides, long train rides. So it was difficult to maneuver, but Russia had the best soccer on the field. That's what I remember Russia for, is what happened on the pitch.
And of course, the next World Cup is going to be next summer, I believe, right? 2022?
Next winter.
Next winter, right.
It's going to be in
because
2022.
It's in a very, very hot part of the world, right?
Yeah. November to December of 2022 in Qatar.
And because I think like I said, when I was watching this interview with you and Ian today, it was something to do with the heat is so hot there that they can't. It just wouldn't work to have it in June and July, right? That's kind of the idea.
That's exactly right. The heat is just too overwhelming.
Right.
And so the logistics to make a Winter World Cup, I don't even want to start to get into how you had to juggle leagues across the world,
right.
get players for this. So it's quite a challenge for FIFA.
Right.
But yes, it'll be too hot in the summer, so it'll be going November, December when we're here at home. Yeah.
Right. So thinking of soccer, Canadian soccer on a global stage, we'll get to the women's national team in a little bit, because obviously we all know what they did at the Olympics. But kind of where are we as a sport, in Canada, Canada-wise?
Yeah, as far as the sport of soccer goes, I believe soccer has the brightest future of all the major sports. Mm-hmm. The kids growing up, you're now getting those younger adults that are having their own kids that played soccer when they were children. Soccer is growing.
Yeah.
And as far as where our Canadian soccer team is, it is the most exciting squad we've had in my lifetime. And I've been a fan since 1995.
Yeah.
I fell in love with the game, actually World Cup 94. And our Canadian team right now is all that development, all that work that we have put in the last decade is coming through. We actually have a golden generation of soccer stars, and they're participating at the biggest clubs and then coming home and playing massive games and winning these games.
Yeah.
They are challenging Mexico. They are outplaying the United States, and we are beating those stalwarts in CONCACAF like
Yeah.
Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And World Cup qualifying is coming up. September 2nd is the first game. We're at the final stage for the first time since 1997, and we're looking better all the time. We've got a great coach. They've got a brotherhood mentality. It's a family there. And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about what we can actually do in this qualifying stage.
Well, I'm sure you probably had goosebumps the one morning a few weeks ago. I can't remember the exact date, when the women's Olympic team beat Sweden 3-2 in penalty kicks. What kind of, what were your thoughts? I'm assuming that you were watching that game glued to the TV. What was kind of going through your mind when that happened? Just what it does for the sport, men's and women's, for this nation.
When the women won a bronze medal in London, they changed the game of soccer for women's soccer in our country.
Yep.
Now, to win the gold medal, they have changed the game forever.
Yeah.
Canada has conquered the world. That's never happened in the women's game before. And I'm telling you, when you say goosebumps, a lot of the soccer fans, it was tears of joy. And I'm almost coming to them right now, thinking about how our goalie Stephanie Lebay was able to stare down the Swedes in that shootout and defeat them. And then for the girls to step up, they were almost out of that. Sweden was one kick.
Up, right? Sweden was up 2-1 in penalty kicks, if I can remember correctly.
You're right.
Yeah.
And they were one kick away from winning.
Yep.
And our keeper stared that girl down with intimidation, and the Swedish girl popped it over the bar.
Yep.
And then we scored the next two, and that was history.
Yeah. I mean, you could also make the argument that, had they come away with a silver medal, that still would have been, one step better than bronze, obviously. Obviously, you get to the gold medal game, you want to come away with that hardware. But, also I go back to the semifinal where they beat the Americans, right? For me, and I don't know if you can speak to this or not, obviously it all worked out because they did win the gold. But, for me, even that step to beat the Americans is, just shows how good this program is and how far along it's come.
Well, that's exactly right. And a lot of us said, after they had defeated the States, which is the first time we've beat them in 20 years or so. Yep. They have beat us time and time again. The best we've done is a 0-0 draw. We got robbed in London 2012 when we tied them 3-3, and then they went into extra time and won that game.
Yep.
We won't get into that today because that one stings, but I feel like this was able to, remove that sting. And beating the Americans, we all thought, hey, doesn't matter what happens in the gold medal final.
Yep.
We beat the Americans. That's our gold medal.
Yep.
That's how we felt.
Yep.
So to beat the #1 nation in the world that has just had us
left, right, and center,
Right. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. We will let you go here pretty soon. One more quick thing back on the Canadian Premier League, because I don't think we touched on it, but what, timeline, year-wise, season-wise, if we get over the stadium hurdle, which we will, what are we kind of looking at for the team's first year of league play?
Well, I like that you said we'll get over that hurdle because that is the biggest thing I think about every day. Now, the timeline, I'm glad you asked that. That's a great question because that's one of the biggest questions. So if we can get approval for that stadium, you're looking at shovels in the ground in 2022.
Yep.
And you're looking at a potential franchise kicking the ball in 2023, but that's our optimistic outlook. Right. We have to say 2023 or else it's just going to go backwards.
For sure.
So very optimistically it's 2023, but realistically we're looking at professional ball kicked on 2024.
Which really isn't even that far away, right? I mean, you think back to it, that's, 2018 was 3 years ago, 2024 is 3 years down the road. Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar loved my idea of a partnership. So once this team comes to Saskatoon, whoever's involved is going to have to get in touch with Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. Lee, thanks so much for joining me on the YXE Sports Podcast. It was fantastic. It was a wealth of knowledge, and you got a little thing there for me as well. I think this is the first time a guest has brought me a gift, so I'm excited.
Well, right on. I'm surprised that's the first time. Okay, so what we've got here is this was a limited edition scarf of 75. It is you've got the hashtag there, Build the Stadium SK.
Yep.
And that's really anyone who is posting on social media when it comes to Twitter or TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook, use that hashtag. We need to get it out there. That's the big one. That's what you use from now going forward until we get that stadium approved. And of course, Matt, this one's for you. In soccer, scarves are the thing.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're not trading jerseys after your game, it's a scarf.
Yeah.
So
no,
I'm happy to bring that for you today.
I appreciate that. And like I said, we will get the stadium built and the team will come. And I can't wait to have one of these that actually has whatever the team name and team logo is on it down the road. So Lee Kormish, like I said, thanks so much for joining me on the this week's edition of the YXE Sports Podcast. Thanks for everybody tuning in. Like I said, just a wealth of information. And if you're a supporter of soccer, you know exactly what to do to help get this team off the ground here in Saskatoon. And we'll talk to you right here again next week, live from Wendell Clark's Classic Grill and Bar. Until then, stay safe.